In lesson 7.5, we're going to discuss percent of change. The terms that we'll be using in the percent of change tells the percent of an amount that has increased or decreased in relation to the original amount. When the amount increases, the percent of change is a percent of increase. When an amount decreases, the percent of change is negative, and you can state a negative percent as a change in decrease. Change of percent can be an increase or decrease. So the formula that you're going to need to remember in order to determine the percent of change is the amount of change, the difference in the two numbers, the two amounts, as the numerator, over the original amount. So in a real-life example, President Obama is wanting to increase the minimum wage. Right now, I believe the minimum wage is $7.50, and he wants to increase it to $10. Now, we're wanting to determine what the percent of increase is because we can look at it by saying, look at the two numbers to show it's an increase. So you find the difference in these two numbers, which is $2.50. You take the difference, you put it over the original amount, set it up as a percent proportion. Then, as you've been doing previously, you can simplify this to be 1/3. Now we can do 100 times 1 is 100 using cross products. 3 times r is 3r. Divide each side by 3. And hopefully by now you know that 100 divided by 3 is 33 1/3, or using a decimal would be 33 3/10 for the bar notation. And the final note that you would do on these type of problems would be indicate if it's an increase or a decrease. So if the minimum wage is passed to $10 an hour, the percent of increase would be 33 1/3% increase. So again, notice that you will not have a negative for your numerator. You're just going to subtract the two. You're going to subtract the two to determine the difference. Just put the larger number on top and subtract the smaller. Okay, so using your notes that you just did, we're going to find the percent of change to the nearest whole percent. So in these examples, we have been asked to find the percent to the nearest whole percent. And then we are to state whether it is an increase or a decrease. In example 1 and 2, I'm going to pause the video and we'll come back and show our work. You'll notice on each of these examples that we subtracted the two amounts. The difference is our numerator. The denominator is the original amount. And we determined we could either use equivalent ratios to solve them. I think we did in both of these use equivalent ratios, but also determined if it was an increase or decrease. Then we have two more. Again, I'll pause the video and come back and check your work. Okay, you'll notice again on number 3 it was a decrease. So we subtracted the two numbers. 17 is our numerator, 68 is our denominator, and she used cross products. But one thing you might want to just double check to see if you can simplify, because this would have simplified to 4. But again, if you don't, and you don't see it, you still get the correct answer. In number 4, notice that we went from 135 to 120. We subtracted the two amounts. Those are our numerator, which goes over the original amount of 135. She reduced that. 1/9 is equal to a percentage over 100. Now, another thing that you can notice, if you have 1/9, if you can recall in previous lessons, in a percentage, that is showing that the numerator repeats. So in this final answer, it would have been 11 1/10 with a bar notation over the 1. But since the instructions asked for us to round it to the nearest whole number, our final answer for number 4 would be 11% decrease. In number 5, there was a decrease from 257 to 243. The difference is 14, which we'll go over 257 and set it up in proportion. Did cross products. 1400 is equal to 257x divided each side by 257. And since the instructions originally told us to round to the nearest whole number, we only needed to go out to the tenths place in this example. Number 6, the difference of 365 and 421 feet is 56 over 365. Set it up in a percent proportion. That's equal to x over 100. 5600 is equal to, 5600 is equal to 365x. Divide each side by 365. Again, we're told just to round to the nearest whole percent, so we only went out to the tenth. So in number 6, it was a 15% increase. In our last example, suppose 36 videos are added to a collection that has 24 videos. What is the percent of change? In this problem, we were already told what the difference was, what they added, which was 36 videos. So you put that as your numerator over the 24, which was your original amount, and then set up your percent proportion. Then we simplified that and could do equivalent ratios to determine it was a 150% increase of the videos that were added.